Greetings, this is Christopher Long, and welcome to Conversations, my fat-free series that finds me talking to some of the most fascinating people on today's pop culture scene. In this bite-sized installment, I'm chatting with the great AnnaMaries O'Brien about a bunch of cool stuff, from her current books and upcoming projects to creative writing and publishing to 80s heavy metal and the old-school LA scene. Break out your metal horns, kids. This episode is gonna rock. Yeah, the sun is shining and the birds are singing here on Florida's Space Coast. And it's all about to get a whole lot brighter, because on the line with me this morning is celebrated author AnnaMaries O'Brien. How's everything out in Phoenix today, AnnaMaries?
Hey, Christopher. Everything is beautiful out here. Sun is shining, birds are chirping.
All right. Sounds happy.
Yeah.
Now, I'm really excited to have this opportunity to get you on the phone and talk to you about some stuff. What I find particularly cool is that when you hit the scene back in 2019, your experience was very similar to that of many first-time authors, yet it also was wonderfully unique. You released your debut memoir, Adventures of a Metalhead Librarian, independently, yet it quickly found and has become embraced by a massive audience and is receiving widespread praise. Can you share with me what drove you to write the first book and what your first publishing journey looked like?
Yeah, sure. So the book, Adventures of a Metalhead Librarian, had been kind of brewing in me for 20 plus years, but I went through college and grad school, and I just didn't have time to write it. I became a mom, the whole thing. So finally, as I hit my early 40s, I felt like I finally had the space to tell my story, and I started working on it. It took me about 7 full years from the very first scratchings to getting it published. The last 5 of it were pretty intense, and so I decided to self-publish because I thought it was a unique story, and I wasn't ready to give it away. So it's been a great journey. Self-publishing has been a lot of fun.
Now, is that an option that you would recommend to new authors or to any authors? How has that experience played out for you going independent?
Yeah, so I think it's a great experience if you take the time to learn how to do it, and that's going to be different for every author and maybe even every book. So I think it's a great way to learn the business, your market, actually how to do it and how to produce, how to find an editor, a formatter, an artist for the cover design. And so basically I wanted to keep it as concise as possible. I didn't want to lose control of the project. So that's why I chose self-publishing for this book. And yeah, I would absolutely recommend it. But like I said, it's going to be different for everybody.
Tell me a little bit specifically about the story, Adventures of a Metalhead Librarian, a coming-of-age story, and you were a rock and roll kid with a passion for books, coming out of the Midwest, and you had a dream and you pursued it. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so you summed up part of it right there. As a Midwestern kid, a product of divorce, single parent, latchkey kid, and heavy metal was kind of my the masculine force in my life, where books were more of the feminine force in my life, and they kind of both raised me. I was, a typical Gen X kid like most of us are, who was kind of free range and allowed to explore. And, heavy metal kind of hooked me. So I moved to LA at 18, and it was basically a big survival story, and I kind of modeled it after Cheryl Strayed's Wild, which came out, I think in 2012. Great book, but you can see it's an adventure story as well about a woman surviving alone in the wilderness, and that's very parallel to my journey, surviving the jungle of LA.
And you had very specific dreams that a lot of people might have thought were unrealistic dreams, and you went out and did it and you realized your dreams and you went to that sort of Disneyland place and you met the people you wanted to meet and did the things that you wanted to do. How scary was that for you? You were 18 when you made that jump.
Yeah, I didn't know any better. So it was, I think there's that naivete that comes from youth, that you're just willing to take chances, that looking back as a 50-year-old person, you're like, holy cow, I can't believe I did that. So yeah, it was a certain amount of anger at my parents and upbringing, and it was just, I had to get away from Ohio, and there was no other option for me. It felt like I had to get away. So LA was where I landed, and yeah, I think looking back on it, it was a big act of bravery, but it was also spurred on by a lot of big magic. A lot of things just aligned right in a way that led me through a story that I couldn't leave unwritten. So it was a pretty amazing experience.
Now, once you get to LA, you're 18. This is around 1990. Did
Yep.
the realization of your dream come anywhere close to your expectation?
No, I'm not exactly sure what my dream was. It was more just to get out of Ohio and to discover what I was meant to do in the world, and I thought it would involve music and writing in some way. But I didn't have a clear plan. It was just kind of where the wind carried me and the people I met. And you can see in the book, the very first day, I met some interesting people. And so it wasn't really a plan, but it definitely did not meet my expectations. But in some ways, it far, far exceeded them. So I kind of went in with thinking I would be a heavy metal rock and roll singer, and I ended up working for a record label. But either way, it was a fabulous experience. I just knew that eventually LA was not the place for me.
Now, as an avid reader and fellow author, I found and fell in love with Adventures of a Metalhead Librarian post haste. And on a myriad of levels, I felt as if I was right there with you on your incredible rock and roll adventure during those late 80s and early 90s. I got to say, your characters are alive, your scenes are vivid, your emotions drip off every page. Can you share a smidge of insights regarding creating captivating storytelling and compelling word building?
Oh, sure. Well, thank you so much for those really kind words. Writing a book is hard, and there is just no other way around the task of it. And so it took me a lot of editing, and you basically have to teach yourself how to write a book. And I looked for inspiration everywhere I could, and I found the best way for me to tell my story was to start thinking of it in terms of me writing a movie or a script of some kind, where I was bringing the reader right down with me, like right over my shoulder as I was experiencing everything. And that storytelling came from studying screenwriting. So I think that's where I get a lot of good feedback, was I tried to take really good care with creating scenes and dialogue that did not have a lot of passive language or supposition or exposition. It was just I was trying to keep the action moving. And I had to do that through multiple drafts and tons of editing. And even still, I feel like I could go back and clean it up a bit. But I really appreciate the kind words on that. But yeah, it was the movie stuff.
Well, now, through that process of crafting your first book, you now also have a successful side hustle as a writing coach, and you share a treasure trove of related tips in your current book, The Magic Key, which I think really is a must for any aspiring writer. What led you to write that one?
Yeah, so I became a writing coach, and I have a problem with the term coach because I don't really feel like a coach. I'm not really athletic, but it's more of a writing support for other writers. And I was compelled to write The Magic Key because, over the years of doing the coaching, both as a writer and in my former career as a librarian, where I worked with writers all the time. A lot of people have a lot of hangups about writing memoir. And it's hard enough to get started on a book, but when you're trying to do a memoir, especially talking about topics that are traumatic or really painful, a lot of people are hesitant. So I wrote The Magic Key to just kind of lay it out like it doesn't have to be scary. You really do have to negotiate with yourself. It is an emotional process. It is a physical process. And memoir can lead to other really great things if you're starting out as a writer. So I think memoir is like one of those big things you should tackle first as a writer, especially if you're a little older and have some stories to tell, because it can really be a good jumping off point for a very rich writing career.
Sure. Now, as an admitted AnnaMarie O'Brien fanboy, I will confess that I have and love both of your books. And I want to know, is it wrong to also confess to you that as I travel around the country these days, I never leave without my Bible and my copy of Adventures of the Metalhead Librarian?
That's very sweet. I do not think I deserve a place beside the Bible, but I appreciate the support, and I know that you've been gifting those out to people, so I appreciate it a lot.
Now, I also subscribe to your newsletter, in which you have been revealing some very exciting details about your 2 current book projects. Can you talk about those?
Yeah, so I started a newsletter on Substack. It's AnnaMarie.substack.com. And I'm calling it Library Confidential after the book I'm writing, which is a memoir of my library career. And I'm calling the book Library Confidential, a not-so-quiet memoir, kind of modeled after Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential, where I reveal some of the dark underbelly of being a librarian in a public library. So I started that book, and then the other book I'm working on kind of cropped up out of nowhere, and it's a project I'm calling the Papa Project, which is a deep dive into the life of my grandfather, who has been kind of a mystery to me my whole life. And it's been quite a journey, but it's only come up in the last couple of months. So I'm trying to tackle these 2 projects, and they're both really exciting to me. And I'm documenting the journey live, basically, through my Substack. So I have it free right now for new subscribers, but at some point I'll be turning on a subscription service to get free chapters and other good stuff as these projects develop.
Now, for myself and many of your readers, what makes you such an engaging author and irresistible storyteller is the honesty and purity of your writing voice. You never lie, you don't talk down, and you don't talk over us. How important is it for a writer to find their voice?
I think it's really important, and I think most writers can still struggle with voice. So it's just something that you have to, the only way to get over it is to keep writing and to keep discovering what feels right to you and what resonates with you as a writer. And I think most writers know when they're writing true and when they're writing untrue. So it's really just a process of having faith that you will find your voice, and it may be a little different for every project. But I appreciate the compliments. I do try to keep it as real as possible, with a lot of love and empathy involved. But yeah, I don't know how to write fake, and that's not my goal. So yeah, I try to be true and honest.
Awesome. Now, I know you're a little jammed up today, but before you bounce out of here, I have one final question.
Okay.
All right. AnnaMarie O'Brien, are you ready to play the Big Five?
The Big Five. I'm ready, Chris.
All right. Now, for those just joining our little show, this is a brand new podcast segment of mine in which my guests are allowed to reveal the deepest, darkest, and most intimate glimpses into their souls. Are you still ready?
I'm still ready.
All
Lay
right.
it on me.
All right. Now, as an aficionado of the '80s metal scene. You are the Metalhead Librarian, after all.
Yep.
Number 5, Rip or Metal Edge?
Oh, without a doubt, Rip Magazine. Rip Magazine. Lon Friend wrote the intro to my book, so of course I'm going to say Rip. But I loved Metal Edge as well.
Props to Jerry Miller and Lon Friend.
Yep, Jerry Miller was a legend. So
For sure. Okay, number 4. You have a great deal of experiences living in the Hollywood rock and roll scene back in the days. The whiskey or the rainbow?
The rainbow. I love the rainbow. It's Italian food. How can you not love the rainbow?
You have to. Is it Tony and Mario and the whole gang?
Yep, that's where it all started in my book, was right at the Rainbow Bar and Grill.
And that's how you hooked me, because that is my favorite place out in Los Angeles, is the Rainbow. So when you drop the Rainbow card in the opening of Adventures of a Metalhead Librarian, I knew this is my girl right here. This is a story I am invested in till she's done talking.
Yep.
Okay. Also, as a expert in music of the era, one thing also that I found really interesting in your book was that a lot of the bands that you discuss are not necessarily all the big top 10 platinum selling poster boys. You kind of dig deep a little bit. So referencing your book, here comes number 3, London Choir Boys or Salty Dog?
Oh, Salty Dog. Yeah, Salty Dog. There was my local Ohio boys. So Michael Hannon of American Dog, kind of a local legend in Columbus, and Salty Dog was a great band. Great band back in the day.
They were indeed. They were a little Zeppelin influenced.
Little Zeppelin-y, little Guns N' Roses-y.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just, and they played a great live show. So, yeah.
Sure. One record we got from them.
Yeah, too bad. It was right at the era when grunge hit, and they were still looking for hair bands, and that album hit right at the wrong time for them, but it was a great album.
Yeah, but if you were only going to get to release one record, that's a pretty darn good one to have to your credit.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, sticking to the music of that era, being the Metalhead Librarian, here's number 2, Master of Puppets or Peace Sells?
Ooh, Chris. That's a tough one. I'm going to have to go with Master of Puppets. Oh, and it almost pains me to say it.
It pains me too. Yeah. That Peace Sells was solid, but it's really hard to walk away from Master of Puppets under any circumstances.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Now, also, in your book, Adventures of a Metalhead Librarian, it's more than LA. It's more than rock and roll or heavy metal. There's a lot of pop culture references and history in your story. So you may be one of the very few people who are uniquely qualified to answer question number 1 in the Anna Marie O'Brien edition of Big Five. Here it comes. Number 1, Full House or Saved by the Bell?
Oh my gosh, Chris. I've never watched either show.
I am almost, in a way, I'm a little proud of you, but in a way, I'm a little disappointed as well.
Wait, didn't Bob Saget just die?
Yes, he did.
I'm going to say Full House in honor of Bob Saget because I do remember that. I have no idea about Saved by the Bell.
Okay. Well played. Anna Marie O'Brien, congratulations. You just survived the maiden voyage of the Big Five.
I squeaked by.
You squeaked by. Yay. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. pleasure, Chris.
Yeah, honestly, to cover everything that I want to talk to you about would take all day, and I know you're a busy bee. So, can we get together and do this again sometime?
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right. In the meantime, where can we find you?
You can find me at my website, AnnaMarieO'Brien.com, or on my Substack for updates every few weeks, substack.annamarie.com. My Instagram is Metalhead Librarian. I post updates there almost every day. And on my Facebook page, which is Adventures of a Metalhead Librarian.
AnnaMarie O'Brien, you are a true rock star. Thank you so much. We'll talk again soon.
Sounds good, Chris. Take care.
And that puts the wraps on another action-packed edition of Conversations. Much thanks to the great AnnaMarie O'Brien for stopping by, and mad props to my producer, Liam Cannon, who puts the show together at Janus Studios in Palm Bay, Florida. I'm Christopher Long. Find me on the Twitter at AuthorLong. You can also check out my other reviews and interviews at v13.net. Until next time, thanks for listening to Conversations.